So we come to it at last. It's the list that's probably going to get me fired. Oh, but just bear with me, perhaps? I'm Sean Ferrick for TrekCulture, and here are the 10 most overrated episodes of Star Trek. Number 10. Survival Instinct. One of the bigger criticisms that Star Trek Voyager faced during its run was the over-reliance on Borg storylines. As the show went on, the Borg began to appear more often, thanks largely to stories dealing with Seven of Nine's backstory. While Jerry Ryan is always a standout in these episodes, that does not mean the episodes themselves stand the test of time. Survival Instinct was meant to show that in her past, Seven was faced with individuality, and she not only turned her back on it, but forced others into a state of permanent foe unity as well. While there is certainly a bittersweet story of growth here, the issue was that it was well-trodden soil by the 6th season. The performances are solid across the board, including yet another guest spot from Vaughn Armstrong, yet this story of Seven in the full Borg here just doesn't really do much to stand out. It wasn't even close to the final Borg appearance in Voyager, which lent a feeling of fatigue to the show. That said, Endgame did manage to give them a sense of menace again, for a time. Number 9. The Inner Light. The Inner Light was produced in the Next Generation's 5th season. It details one of the most profound, affecting, and ultimately traumatizing events in Jean-Luc Picard's life, so one would assume that it would play a major role in his story going forward. One would be incorrect. To be fair to the episode, this lack of legacy is a victim of the period of television in which it was produced, so why does that place it on this list? The Inner Light is often cited as one of the perfect Picard episodes, and here's the twist, it truly is. However, for something that receives such universal acclaim as this, for it to receive the adulation that it had, it lands here due to the show's frustrating lack of follow-up. Consider this, the Best of Both Worlds seems to get a mention every second Tuesday in Star Trek, while the Dominion War left an impact on the Alpha Quadrant for years to come. Now, if we narrow the view to only those episodes dealing with characters, we still land on Best of Both Worlds. In effect, the Catan probe was the benevolent mirror image of the Borg, taking control of Picard and forcing him to live on another person's timeline. Perhaps if it had been shown the same love by the production team as the fans has visited on it, it wouldn't find itself on this list here. Number 8. Dawn. There is a fantastic episode of Star Trek in which a human male and an alien soldier meet on a planet, unable to truly understand each other, make it work. There are frustrations, but they do come to an understanding. It's called Darmok, and it's in the Next Generation. Dawn isn't a bad episode, but the whole thing feels like a retread. Having Trip as the focus character was definitely an interesting idea. This was a character who wasn't trained in diplomacy or alien understanding like Captain Picard was. He knew how to make the engines work, and that was his job. So seeing him try to battle through his frustrations is almost certainly what earns this episode such a high ranking. In a way, it's symbolic of what Enterprise could have been. This was the first Deep Space Earth vessel sent out into the void, so one would assume that there would be more examples of this kind of first contact. Instead, it quickly fell into the pattern of trying to emulate the Next Generation, until its 3rd season. Dawn then serves as a reminder that, had the show practiced that little bit harder, excellent episodes really were possible. Number 7. Trials and Tribulations. Though I'm effectively writing my own marching orders by including this episode on this list, bear with me, Trials and Tribulations is a fantastically fun, silly hour of television. It was produced to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Star Trek, which it does with aplomb. What it doesn't do is advance the plot. Take, for example, the other celebration of the anniversary, Flashback. Here, Star Trek Voyager used the framing device of Tuvok's service aboard the USS Excelsior to bring older performers back to the franchise, notably Grace Lee Whitney and, of course, George Takei. The Deep Space Nine offering is a marvel in its own right, combining the legacy and contemporary actors via the use of computer trickery. This is something that we do not in any way wish to brush aside. Perhaps it's best to enjoy this episode as a fun side adventure, one brewing with love for the franchise rather than one of the greatest that Deep Space Nine or Star Trek itself had to offer. If this is a franchise that is boldly going forward, then this is an episode that looks back with rose-tinted glasses. Number 6. Extinction. So I've never made any secret about how I feel about Extinction. Even the director of this episode, LeVar Burton, has said that he was embarrassed to be a part of this outing. So imagine my surprise when it received a higher rating than 0 on IMDb. Now, I'm going to try and be fair about this. Enterprise had entered its third year with the attack on Earth, the upgrade and improved arming of the ship, the loss of Trip's sister, and T'Pol's resignation from the Vulcan High Command. It was then to be a darker, denser year, one spent dealing with the Xindi threat. Along comes Extinction. First, the atrocious update of the opening theme, adding a jaunty tambourine beat to Faith of the Heart. This does not scream descent into darkness. Then, Scott Bakula and Linda Park get 40 litres of plastic stuck to their faces and are told to act like wild animals. None of it works, nor does it advance the plot in any way. Jolene Blaylock, as usual, does her best with the material given, but Extinction deserves to be quietly slid into an agony booth and left there overnight. Number 5. Project Daedalus. Star Trek Discovery got off to a shaky start in its debut year, but time has been its friend. The shock of the opening war with the Klingons has long since worn off, so the attempts by the show to push the franchise in a new direction are much more forgivable. The second year saw the introduction of Anson Mount as Pike, Ethan Peck as Spock, and the mystery of the Red Angel. With much of the focus on these new characters, the already limited screen time that the rest of the Discovery's crew received was now at a strain. Project Daedalus attempts, in a single outing, to get the audience to care about Ariam, then mourn her loss without any real build-up. In isolation, the episode is strong enough, with an excellent performance by Hannah Cheeseman. However, for its strengths, it's emblematic of the issues facing Discovery. The audience was being told that they needed to mourn the supposedly important character, rather than allowing them to develop feelings for her, only to tear her away. It's a challenge that Discovery has never truly overcome, with Project Daedalus, while a good episode in its own right, only serving to highlight this. Number 4. Mirror Mirror. Mirror Mirror is one of the more standout episodes of the original series. It's certainly iconic. The uniforms, Sulu's scar, Spock's goatee, the latter of those being the most immediately recognisable element from the story. The episode is a tremendous amount of fun, the actors all play against type, and the score, adapted by Fred Steiner from his earlier compositions, particularly for the Romulans in Balance of Terror. Mirror Mirror has inspired many spoofs and parodies since. That, in my opinion, is where the true strength of the episode lies. Not in the presentation seen on screen, but in the legacy that it left in its wake. The prequel to this, In a Mirror Darkly, was only possible because of the camp fun on show, while sequels like Crossover and Shattered Mirror doubled down on the dark side of this universe. The episode was nominated for a Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation in 1968, though it would lose out, and with respect deservedly so, to The City on the Edge of Forever. Number 3. A in Arcadia Ego, Part 2. Star Trek Picard has offered some of the most uplifting celebrations of Star Trek side by side with a selection of deeply frustrating episodes as well. A in Arcadia Ego Part 2 falls into the latter camp. While much has been said about the copy and paste fleet, this episode's high ranking feels a little off. The good is easy to spot. Picard and Data's conversation is a highlight, as is Issa Briona's vocal strengths on Blue Skies. The first hints of Seven and Raffi are teased, while Jurati's straight-up murder of Maddox is just swept to the side. What truly makes this a frustrating episode across the board is the entire lack of consequences. Picard is dying? Nope. Synths will destroy all organic life? Nope. While no one is out here arguing that it's a perfect episode, it tends to receive high to middling reviews. Picard arguably didn't find its feet until the third season, and while the first seasons weren't devoid of true standout episodes, it wouldn't be entirely fair to laud the praise on a season finale that didn't really do anything other than turn Picard into a golem. Number 2. Skin of Evil. Skin of Evil is cemented in Trek history for one reason alone: the death of Tasha Yar. Without that particular storyline, this episode is another trip to Planet Hell, rather a lot of standing around talking, and a big oily thing whose best legacy is setting up a joke in Lower Decks. When reviewing the first season of The Next Generation, there are a few episodes that tend to be given a slightly kinder evaluation than they perhaps truly deserve. This, in no small part, is due to the fact that the debut year of The Next Generation is one of the weakest in the history of the franchise. Honestly, and we say this as apologists for episodes like Threshold, it's a marvel that a second season was greenlit. Skin of Evil sees the exit of Tasha in a shocking yet pointless way. It did both the character and the audience a disservice, then the funeral scene that takes up much of the final act is a little hard to bear. Though there is some fine acting on show, this is an episode that largely rises to the top because of Yar's sacrifice, not for any particular strengths. Number 1. Message in a Bottle. Message in a Bottle is great fun. It's a doctor-centric romp, so Robert Picardo gets to have the time of his life, beamed away through the Hirogen satellite network and appearing on board the brand new USS Prometheus. As an audience, we are treated to Starfleet vessels, battles with Romulans, and the return of Khan's right-hand man, Judson Scott. What lets the episode down is the appearance of the EMH Mark II. While there is certainly humour to be found in their interactions, this EMH is abrasive, annoying, selfish, and frankly had us rooting for the Romulans from time to time. Andy Dick's performance was meant to show a polar opposite to Picardo's, and in that respect the episode manages to land. However, there is simply not enough redeeming qualities for this new hologram to truly lift the episode from quite good to legendary. We're also somewhat spoiled by that tease over in Deep Space Nine. While yes, Bashir was deemed ineligible, there is still a fabulous what-if scenario that sees Robert Picardo and Alexander Siddig teaming up to take down those pointed-eared villains. That's everything for this list. Now, we respect that a lot of these ideas might be subjective, so we would ask that if you feel there are episodes that are overrated, let us know in the comments below or over on our socials. Speaking of, you can find us at TrekCulture over on Twitter. You can find us at TrekCultureYT on Instagram. I'm at Sean Ferrick on Twitter, so do give us a follow and let us know. Thanks so much to our lovely editor Martin who made this video possible. You are all wonderful and awesome. Make sure that you look after yourselves until I see you again. Make sure that you live long and prosper. Be kind, be thoughtful, be good people. You're all awesome. Thank you so much.